All right. Last but not least, offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, Dave Patenaude. We'll open it right up for questions for Coach Patenaude. Brock, if you want to go start.
Yep, Coach. On that final series, when you went for it on fourth and I guess it was 1.5, um, would you have preferred to have Gibbs in the game at that time, or was it just based on the call you had for that particular
No, I mean,
play?
it's fourth and 1.5, 2 yards. J.P. Mason's our best short yardage back. Have total faith in him getting it downhill. Ran our base offensive play, which is the short yardage play that, has been the most consistent for us over the course of the year. And we hammered it to our back, and we didn't get it. So, no, I wouldn't change that at all.
Kelly.
It seems like you guys are executing well early in the game with early strategy, and then also in 2-minute situations or tempo situations. But kind of what do you need to do in the middle third of the game to be a little more consistent in scoring the ball and finishing drives off?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you get in these games against good defenses that you're matched up fairly well with, there's not a lot of margin of error, and they're very good on defense. We knew that going in. Excuse me. And so that margin of error is small. And we had a couple called back, big plays that were called back. And when you have them called back, now you're setting yourself back against the sticks. And you can't, your execution has to be great, and your elite playmakers have to make plays. And that's for everybody. That's every team, right? It's your ability to just move the ball up and down the field against really good teams, is difficult. So, you have to be consistent. You have to execute the plan. You can't have plays called back by penalty. And then when you get in shot situations or you get one-on-ones, like when we got Jameer free on that little ball, we put him one-on-one on the weak side linebacker and dumped him the ball, and he made 5 guys miss and scored. But all of a sudden, we get a hold on the edge. That knocks us back, and so that takes a little bit of the momentum out. So we just have to continue on the same path of, like, what's next? What's the next play? What's the next series? Things aren't always going to go the way you want them to go. The biggest thing I think is, reserve the right to kick, during the middle of the game, punt them in, have the D hold them, play a field position game. The margin between the teams that we're playing and us right now has been shrunk to a point where you're playing good football. And you're playing against teams that are good football teams. And so if you make a play, you put them behind. They make a play, they put you behind. And then it just keeps going back and forth when you have evenly matched teams.
Coach, what do you feel has helped the offensive running game get going, especially with Gibbs? I know he finished second lead rusher in this game Saturday behind Sims.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's the same thing across the board every time you talk about the run game, right? Everything starts with the guys up front. I thought that those guys played well. Jameer's got a good feel for the run game now, He's kind of feeling how the ball's being blocked, where to put the ball. Much more understanding of defenses and how they're fitting things. So, in the past where he might have just tried to run one to the edge and outrun people because he's a special athlete, now he's understanding that if I bounce the ball out there, there's nobody being blocked. I'm on my own, right? So this is where I have to put the ball. And you know what? If it's not totally blocked clean, I still have to hammer it in there and get 2 or 3, And when he gets on the second level, he's tough to bring down, right? I mean, he made a bunch of people miss, but it's always going to be about the O-line getting him to the second level and then letting him, do his thing from there. And that coupled with the ability of Jeff to run the ball, and Jeff being able to pull a few early on and got us out of there. And so now, defenses have to be more cognizant of Jeff pulling it, and hopefully you're throwing a couple over their heads. You soften them up a little bit. And that we actually, they were in basically a 10-man front, So, they had their safeties were down. They were playing a lot of man coverage. But the good thing with that is when you're playing man coverage and you split one, everybody's chasing wideouts and tight ends all over the field. So you're not as gaps strong. So, once he spit a couple of those and wound it back, even, in that last, and I think it was in the fourth quarter, he kind of just pushed it on the front side. And now he had a feel for that thing's going to go back, and he split it back, made, 3 guys miss, and then went down the sideline. So I think it's just an overall development and understanding of the run game that comes with young players.
Okay.
To follow up on what you're saying about just you guys being close, what's the next step from getting into the 30s consistently and not having the mistakes and those
Yep.
sorts of things?
I think that's it. I think you have to, your execution has to be great, right? You have to be able to take some shots and win some shots, throw the ball over their heads. You have to be able to establish Jameer in all different ways, in concert with Jeff in the run game. We have to be better on third and medium, right? We're actually really good on third and long. I think in the top 15 in the country. And we're good on third and short. The third and mediums have been totally inconsistent. Whether it's a run or a throw, a few drops, a few missed targets, a few pressures, and that's chasing you off. So, you just can't rely on you're going to hit that shot or you're going to break a huge run, and then you don't, and now you're scuffling a little bit, where you have to be able to, 3, 4, 5, 6 yards, you have to be able to consistently get that, 50% of the time, 60% of the time in there somewhere, and be able to extend drives, and I think that that's where we've put a lot of study in and did a really in-depth understanding of what's coming down with that. And I think that's the next step, is really just being consistent and being able to move the chains on those third and mediums.
Patrick.
Coach Patenaude, back to the 4th and 2 question. Coach Collins made reference on Saturday about a mindset that was developed at halftime about, playing to win. And obviously that has a fundamental appeal to everybody. But do you kind of go at it with that mindset? Obviously the situation can change from fourth quarter to fourth quarter, but does that help determine how you make that play call in that situation with 11 minutes to go, down 6, I think it was?
No, I think you go in and you have your plan, right? And you say, okay, it's 4th and 2. These are our plays. You have 3 or 4 plays that you game plan for those situations. And based on what we had seen on tape, that was, our core run. And, we talked about this a bunch in the past. It's, if that play squirts through for a touchdown, what a great, that's a great play call, right? And Jeff's a hero for going for it, and, we're cutting edge. We're being uber aggressive, and we're playing the win. If it doesn't, you have egg on your face, And so the naysayers say, well, why are you running the ball into the middle of the line? You should have done this, and this. But if you did this, and this, and you didn't get it, you'd say, well, why aren't you running the ball into the middle of the line with J.P. Mason? So that just goes with what it is. The hours and hours and hours of film study that you have, just watching what their defense does on those situations, and then you pick from what you think you can do best with your personnel against their personnel in that situation, and you can't second guess it, right? You can't second guess it. You have to go in and say, that's our play, and we're going to give it to JP. We're going to go downhill, and if they stop us, they stop us. But that's percentage-wise, we're saying that's the best thing that you can do. And then if you're in the middle of the game and they're doing other things that are a little bit different, then you have your counters to those. But, running inside zone with a 220-pound running back on 4th and 2 is always going to be a pretty good choice.
Time for a few more, Ron.
Adonicus Sanders has turned into a playmaker for you.
He sure has.
And what is he doing now that maybe he wasn't doing a year or two ago? And it seems like he's playing with a lot of confidence also.
Yeah, he is playing with a lot of confidence, and he's like very determined. And with splitting time a lot with Kalani Norris, and I don't think he liked it. I don't think he liked splitting time. And so the conversation that we had was them ball out. And if you're better than the next guy, you're going to play. And if you're not, then you won't. And that's how you have to practice. That's how you have to, get the confidence of the staff to put you in those situations. And that dude, when he gets his hands on the ball, he has an uncanny ability to break tackles. He's not the biggest guy. He's not a 4-3 kid where he just runs by him. But he's scrappy. He throws guys off, and he's got a good feel for where to go with it. Now we got to get him to stop running with the ball downhill like a loaf of bread. We're on him to stick the ball up there. And you're right. And I think that when you run by a dude and you have a game-winning touchdown, that makes you pretty confident. And now you're finding him, and his work ethic to get himself to that point has been amazing. So I'm super happy about his development and what he's bringing to us.
Last couple for Coach Patenaude, and we'll go Kelly and then wrap up with Ken.
I had two things. One is, has this been the record for most touchdowns called back by penalties this year for you? And then I was also curious your thoughts on Miami's defense.
You put so much work in, you put and you get that specific situation against that specific look, and so you're trying to get that call, and like the one that we dumped to Adonicus, we knew that they were going to play man. We've practiced that play probably 300 times in the last 3 years. Just the mesh pieces and all of that. And so when you see it spring, it's like, yeah, that's a step in the right direction. You're moving forward, and you say, hey, that was pretty cool. We schemed that thing up. We got what we wanted. We made a big play, and guys executed, and it's fun, right? It's fun when you watch all the hours that you put into it become reality against good football teams. And yeah, it is a little bit of a kick in the gut when it comes back. It's like a little deflating, but you can't carry that. You can't carry that, and you can't carry it to the kids. So if I'm gonna expect them to have a what's next mentality, then I gotta scuffle a little bit for like 3 seconds, and then I'm on to the next call. And you can't worry about it until you watch it on Sunday and you say, oh man, that stinks. Miami's defense is what you would think. They're long, they're fast, they're super athletic. They run to the ball. They try to notch you up and try to put their pads on you. They're very boisterous, and that's how they play. I think it's a little misleading. They've played some really good people. They've played some really good offenses. They lost to Alabama. They lost to Michigan State. We were both in the top 5. I think that they are confident. They're playing some younger kids now that are super talented. Both of their starting safeties right now are freshmen. They're starting the corner, so they have a little bit younger group out there, but super athletic, super talented. And again, they're going to challenge you. They play a lot of man coverage, and they get up and bump and run, and they're going to try to, get you off your game, disrupt routes, that type of thing, and let their athletes up front try to run around and create havoc with some of the things that they do with their twist and blitz game.
Ken, do you want to wrap this up?
I want to ask you about Devin and Paula. I guess just how they're doing. It seems like Devin's done pretty well, and obviously Paula's seems like fitting in there. But just the relationship I imagine you see between the two of Devin kind of trying to pour in a little bit to what Paula's trying to do.
Paula is going to be a really special player. He is. He just runs into people and they fall down. You know what I mean? He ran into a kid on Saturday. The weak side linebacker was coming across the top of the ball, and Paula came off of a block and he hit the kid, and the kid literally got lifted off the ground. He didn't even know he really hit him. You know what I mean? He just kind of ran into him. He was coming off of him, and so he's super powerful, and he's athletic for a big guy. What you don't have is experience, right? What the combination of having Minahan on one side of him and Devin on the other side of him is, we say, hey, listen, what they tell you to do, you do, And so, Devin is been around for a long time, seen a lot of things, and has taken him under his wing. So Paula has a little bit of a safety blanket there to say, when that play comes in and that defense moves, that he's got a calming influence on both sides of him to say, hey, we do this, we do this, we do this. And that combination has been good. The cool thing is we'll have some guys back, and we'll have more depth. So being able to play these guys, over the course of the last couple weeks, hopefully will pay dividends for us, down the last month of the season.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, guys.